Alright troops, it's your man Chris Scullion from TyroleHack.com. Mario Super Picross was recently added to the Switch Online's library of SNES games, and it is one of my all-time favourite games. Now, I tweeted a couple of days ago about it being on there, and I've kind of half the responses have been people saying I can't put this down, it's fantastic, and half the responses have been people saying I have no idea how to play this. So I thought I'd put together a short video just to give people a few pointers on how to play Picross in general. It doesn't help that it's all in Japanese, that's because it was only ever released in Japan. A cheeky wee wink from Mario there, and rightly so. Who could blame him? So I figure I'll take you through some of the really easy stages first. I've not spent a lot of time on it just now because I'm writing a book, but I've got the cartridge version, the Super Famicom cartridge, and kind of rinsed it entirely back in the day. So yeah, I'm just kind of replaying it again. But yeah, so here you go. You start with this. You start with general Mario's Picross levels, and you can only get level 1 just now. This is a tutorial bit at the top here, but obviously that's not much use if it's only in Japanese, so that's why I'm here to brighten up your minds and souls. So here we go. You start with kind of 12 basic puzzles, and your first one's a basic 5x5 puzzle. And the general rule of Picross is that the numbers, this is asking you if you want a hint roulette. If you choose yes, it fills in a column and a line for you already, but we'll skip that just now. So the general rule of Picross is that these numbers at the side are clues, and those clues tell you how many blocks to fill in. So this one's fairly easy straight away. This 5 on the left hand side is basically telling you that on this row 5 blocks have to be filled in, so quite obviously all 5 of them get filled in with the A button. And this row here, the vertical row here, that number 1 says only 1 block has to be filled in, and that one's already filled in, so it must be that one. So you press the B button to kind of X these out, which basically means you don't fill these in. You don't need to fill these ones in again. And that's pretty much the basic rules in the kind of the most basic way, because what that essentially means is using just that rule, you can figure out with a process of elimination which blocks to fill in and which not. With lines that have got multiple numbers, what that means is somewhere on this row there'll be 1 filled in on its own and 1 filled in on its own somewhere, but you don't know where. So it could be here, it could be here, it could be here, but it can't be here because that would be 2 together. But it's 1 and a 1, so you know at least you can get rid of this one, but you still don't know which of these is the one, so you leave all these blank. This one is a 1 and then a 3, so your 1 is there. You have to kind of X that in because there's nothing can go after that because the 1's already there, and this must be your 3. Same deal with this one here. It starts with 3, and this is the first one in it, so this must be 3. Then it must be a space, and then that's your 1. And this one here, there's supposed to be 2 filled in, and you've already got 1, so that must be the other one. X these ones out. This one's catered for, your 2's already there. This one's catered for, your 2's already there, and this is your last one to fill in, and that's it. And the puzzle here is like a Japanese symbol. The early ones are just Japanese symbols because that's Picross law, is that it always has to start with basic letters and numbers before it gets more complex. So there you go. I'll do another one just to kind of drive that point home, even though it may be kind of obvious by now what the deal is. But again, I'll show you the hint roulette. This is yes, means yes. So if you do that, it starts this kind of roulette, and you press A twice to fill in. It automatically fills in 1 row and 1 column, which isn't really, it's pretty pointless here because it's pretty simple. But in big massive grids that might be useful. So that's a 5. You always fill in the full ones first because that kind of makes it a lot easier. That's a 5. Now this one here, you can fill in 2. It's 2, so this can't be it, because if that was 1, there's nowhere for the other one to go, so this has to be X'd out. It's not a 2. And in terms of here, this is where the process of elimination comes in. It you don't know which 2 of these are filled in, but you know that whatever 2 they are, they're next to each other, so it's either going to be these 2 or it's going to be these two. So what you definitely know at least is that this one's going to be filled in no matter what, because it's either going to be these two or these two, so that's definitely filled in. And now that that's definitely not you would have known this anyway, but with this definitely filled in, you know this is definitely a 3. So that goes, and that by Xing that, you make this 3 obvious. And then there's your 2 here, 1, 2. Here's your 4 here, 1, 2, 3, 4. X this one out, and then that makes it clear that this is your 2s here. And that's it, another wee Japanese symbol for you. So that's pretty much it. That's the crux of Mario Super Picross. What I'll do is I'll skip forward to my own save file to show you it getting a bit more complex. And at this point, I'll try and switch your brain off a bit, because if you're new to it, this is maybe a jump too far, but just to show you how those kind of basic rules kind of end up playing out in slightly later stages. Obviously you can go all the way down. Also when you unlock level 1, you unlock this, which is kind of Wario's Picross. You see the symbol appearing at the top to change the M to a W basically, or the Ma to a Wa. It's the same deal, but the difference is it doesn't, in Mario's Picross, if you choose one wrong, it goes burp and you lose some time. And it basically makes it clear to you that that was the wrong decision. Wario's Picross won't tell you if you've got it wrong, and just won't say anything until you solve the puzzle, which means if you've made a mistake and you don't notice, you can make a big mess for yourself that's really hard to kind of figure out and clean up later on. So it's more for experts. Don't really try that until you've done all the Mario ones. So let's try a later one here. Let's do this one. Now see, this is a 15 by 15 grid, and as you can see it gets a lot more complex, but even though the grid's a lot bigger, the rules generally stay the same and the basics can be done right away. So any zeros, you can fill them in right away because you know there's nothing there, and any 15s, anything that's the same number as the size of the grid, you can fill that in right away. And if you can fill a bottom row in, if you can fill a side in, that's an absolute lifesaver, because it means you can fill in so many of these because you know what you're starting with. So for example, this column here ends with a 1, so that's your 1. This column ends with a 1, that's your 1. This column ends with a 4, that's your 4. This one ends with a 2, this one ends with a 4. 1, 1, 1, 1, 4, 2, 4, 1, 1, 1. There you go. And you've already actually filled in a big chunk, and it makes life a lot easier. Now what you can also do, you don't really need to do it right away, but it might help later, is you can score these out as you've done them, so you can kind of keep track as to what you've done. Now this one here is actually easy to fill in as well now, because these X's here make kind of leave you with no other choice but to fill them in. It's a 4, then a 6 and a 3, and if you count them up you can see that the 4 has to go here, the 6 has to go here, and the 3 has to go here. And then once you've got another row done, you can go back up here and start doing the columns again. So this is a 7. This is another 1. This is another 1, another 1, another 1, another 1, another 1, another 1, and a 5. And there you go. And as you do that, you can kind of, once you kind of learn it, and it takes a wee while to kind of sit and slowly kind of methodically figure everything out. But once you get used to it and into the general rhythm of it, you can eventually do it fairly quickly. This is where I'm going to make a mistake now because I'm talking while doing it, and that's always a bad move. That always means trouble. But yeah, this is like one of my favourite series of all time, Picross. The first one was on the Game Boy, Mario's Picross, and this is one of the sequels. There was a sequel as well. There was another Mario Picross 2 on the Game Boy, but But this was the kind of obviously the first Super Famicom one, and the only Super Famicom one. There were some kind of downloadable ones that came out in Japan only, and there's like Star Fox ones and stuff like that, which were quite cool. But it was the same basic kind of engine as this. But yeah, that's basically the general gist of it. You eventually find yourself in situations like this where it's like proper process of elimination stuff, and very slowly but surely you kind of work your way through it. I just want to see what the picture is here. I can't remember. But yeah, I'll show you how the mistakes work. So you've got your timer up the top left, says 26, 43, 42, 41. So you basically get 30 minutes to clear the stage. If you make a mistake, so if I decide to fill this in even though it's wrong, you lose 2 seconds. If you make another mistake, you lose 4 seconds, 8 seconds. And so if you make 3 or 4 mistakes, you can pretty much forget it, unless you're really fast. So you need to like know for sure what you're doing. And now I've left myself with the potential of failing this because with another single slip of the controller and I'm stuffed. So let's just see. That's there, 114. Oops, that's right, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, that goes there, that goes there, that goes there, 111's done, 1, there's no one left, 5, 3, 1, 111, that's done, there's 1 for 4, 114 is done, 5, 3, there's a 3, that's done, 1, 1, 3, 111 is done, 4, 1112 is done, that's done, that's done, and that's done. And there you go, there's a lovely wee ambulance for you. And once it's done, it'll do a wee animation for you, usually. Hooray! Get him in the back. So there you go, that's Mario's Super Picross. Don't, like, that last bit may have kind of hurt your brain a bit if you're still completely new to it, but it's just to show you that eventually it will all click and you'll learn the rules in your head. It's like playing something like Minesweeper or Tetris or something, that at first it feels like you're just doing basic things, but then eventually you learn the tricks and you learn the patterns, and once you learn the patterns you can look at certain lists of clues and you know exactly what to choose and what to cancel out without really thinking too much, and it soon becomes a kind of second nature and just a process of elimination. It's really satisfying once you finally get to that stage, and it's almost like the Matrix. You're just kind of doing it mindlessly. But yeah, there you go, that's why I love it. At some point in the future I'll do a more kind of in-depth look at Picross in general, because if this is your first Picross game and you enjoy it, there are lots and lots of Picross games out there and they're not all great. So I'll happily kind of give you a guide to the best ones in the future, but for now you've got a lot to be getting on with here. So hopefully you enjoy it, and hopefully this helped. If you have any more questions, please do ask them in the comments. Otherwise, do like and subscribe and all the usual nonsense that you do, and I'll catch you later on. Thanks guys, bye bye.